Virgin forced to marry crippled Mafia boss. He claimed her after one night. He can't stop obsessing. Part 1. The wedding dress didn't fit. Elena Rossi stood in the cramped bridal suite of St. Augustine's Cathedral, staring at her reflection with the kind of numb disbelief usually reserved for people who'd just been told they had 24 hours to live. The ivory silk gown, expensive, elegant, and absolutely suffocating, had been tailored for someone else, someone who'd chosen this, someone who wasn't her. "Stop fidgeting," her mother hissed, yanking the zipper with enough force to make Elena wince. "You're going to wrinkle it." "I'm going to wrinkle it, Mama. I'm about to marry a man I've never met, a crippled Mafia boss. I think wrinkles are the least of our concerns." Her mother's hand cracked across her cheek before Elena could blink. The sting was sharp, familiar. Elena touched her face, more surprised by the tears that sprang to her eyes than the slap itself. She'd stopped crying over her mother's outbursts years ago. "You will marry Dante Salvatore," her mother said, voice low and trembling with something that sounded almost like fear. "You will smile, you will say I do, and you will save this family from ruin. Do you understand me?" Elena understood perfectly. Her father had gambled away their restaurant, their home, and apparently her future. The Salvatores owned half of Boston's North End, and Dante Salvatore, the youngest son, the broken one, had agreed to clear the debt in exchange for a bride. Her, 23 years old, virgin, college dropout, and now mob wife. "He's in a wheelchair," Elena whispered, grasping for any detail that might make this nightmare feel less surreal. "What does he even want with me?" Her mother's expression shifted, something dark and pitying crossing her face. "What any man wants, Elena. You're young, you're pretty enough, and you're untouched." She said the last word, like it was a business asset. "The Salvatores don't do this lightly. Dante Salvatore requested you specifically." The words sent ice down Elena's spine. Requested her? How? Why? She'd never met the man. She'd seen photos before the accident that had left him paralyzed from the waist down. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes that could cut glass, handsome in that dangerous, forbidden way that made smart girls cross the street. But that was 2 years ago, before the car bomb meant for his older brother had stolen his ability to walk. Before he'd become the family's biggest liability, shuffled into the background while his siblings ran the empire. What could a man like that possibly want with her? The door swung open, and Elena's cousin Gia burst in, all red lipstick and poorly concealed panic. "They're ready," Gia announced, then lowered her voice. "Elena, are you sure about this? Because I saw him downstairs." "And what?" Elena's heart hammered. Gia bit her lip. "He's intense, like really intense. He hasn't stopped staring at the doors since he arrived. And the wheelchair thing? He's still scary as hell. Maybe scarier, actually. Like he's got something to prove." "Gia," Elena's mother snapped. "Out now." But Gia grabbed Elena's hand, squeezing hard. "If you want to run, I'll help you. Right now, we can go out the back." "She's not running," her mother interrupted, shoving Gia toward the door. "She's getting married. In 5 minutes." The door slammed. Elena closed her eyes, breathing through the panic clawing at her chest. This was insane. This was medieval. This was... A sharp knock interrupted her spiral. "Miss Rossi?" A deep, unfamiliar voice. Male, polite, but unyielding. "Mr. Salvatore requests a moment before the ceremony." Elena's mother paled. "That's unusual." "He insists." Her mother looked at Elena like she'd just been sentenced to death, then nodded stiffly. "Fine, 2 minutes." The door opened, and Elena's breath caught. Dante Salvatore didn't look broken. He sat in a sleek black wheelchair, custom-made and expensive, wearing a charcoal suit that fit him like a second skin, dark hair slightly mussed, sharp cheekbones and eyes. God, those eyes, so intensely green they seemed to glow in the dim hallway light. But it wasn't his appearance that stopped her heart. It was the way he looked at her, like he already owned her. "Leave us," he said quietly, never breaking eye contact with Elena. Her mother opened her mouth to protest, then thought better of it. She fled. The door clicked shut. Silence. Dante wheeled himself forward, movements controlled and predatory despite the chair. He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and woodsy that made her knees weak. "You're afraid," he observed. "Not a question. A fact." Elena lifted her chin. "Wouldn't you be?" His mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. "I would be terrified. Marrying a stranger, a criminal, a man who can't even walk." He leaned forward slightly. "But here's what you need to understand, Elena. I don't need my legs to make you mine." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I don't—" "One night," he interrupted softly, and something in his voice made her stomach flip. "6 months ago, Rossi's restaurant. You were waitressing. You spilled wine on my jacket." Elena's heart stopped. She remembered. Oh God, she remembered. A private party, a handsome man in the corner booth. She'd been so flustered by his stare that she'd tripped, drenching his expensive suit in Chianti. He'd laughed, actually laughed, and tipped her $200. "You," she breathed. "Me," Dante confirmed. "Before the accident, before this," he gestured to the wheelchair with something almost like amusement. "You apologized 17 times. You blushed every time I looked at you. And when you smiled, actually smiled, not that forced customer service nonsense, I knew." "Knew what?" His eyes darkened. "That I was going to marry you." Elena's world tilted. "That's insane." "Perhaps." He reached out, fingers brushing her wrist with shocking gentleness. "But here we are. You manipulated my father's debt." "I cleared your father's debt," Dante corrected. "He was going to lose everything regardless. I simply made sure you were protected in the process. By forcing me to marry you. By making you mine before someone else did." His thumb stroked the inside of her wrist, and Elena shivered despite herself. "The North End is dangerous, Elena. Your father made enemies. Without protection, you'd be vulnerable. So this is charity?" "This," Dante said softly, "is obsession." The word hung between them, heavy and dangerous. Elena should pull away, should slap him, should scream. Instead, she stood frozen, as Dante lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that felt like a brand. "I'll give you a choice," he murmured against her skin. "Walk out that door right now and I'll make sure your family's debt is forgiven. No strings. You'll never see me again." Hope flared in her chest. "Really? Really?" His eyes met hers, blazing with something that made her breath catch. "But if you stay, if you walk down that aisle and say I do, you're mine, Elena. Completely. No half measures, no regrets." He smiled, slow and devastating. "And I promise you, Tesoro, I will spend every day making sure you never want to leave." Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. This was her chance, her escape. All she had to do was walk away. But Dante's eyes held hers, and she saw something there that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Certainty. Like he already knew what she was going to choose. Like he'd known 6 months ago when she'd spilled wine on his jacket and blushed at his laugh. 2 minutes are up," Dante said softly, releasing her hand. "What's it going to be, Elena? Freedom?" He gestured to the door. Then he smiled. "Dangerous, possessive, absolutely devastating. Or me?" Elena chose him. She still wasn't entirely sure why. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at her like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. Maybe it was the memory of that night 6 months ago, when a stranger's laugh had made her feel seen for the first time in years. Or maybe, she thought as she walked down the aisle on her father's trembling arm, she was just as insane as he was. The ceremony passed in a blur of Latin phrases and expensive flowers. Dante never took his eyes off her, not when the priest spoke, not when her hand shook as she signed the marriage certificate, not even when his older brother Marco, tall, imposing, and clearly unhappy about this arrangement, whispered something sharp in Italian that made Dante's jaw tighten. "I do," Elena heard herself say. "I do," Dante echoed, voice steady and sure. And just like that, she became Mrs. Salvatore. The reception was held at Salvatore Estate, a sprawling mansion in Beacon Hill that looked like it had been ripped from a Gothic novel. All dark wood, crystal chandeliers, and enough armed security to invade a small country. Elena sat at the head table, untouched champagne in front of her, watching her new husband navigate the crowd with the same predatory grace he'd shown in the bridal suite. The wheelchair didn't slow him down. If anything, it seemed to amplify his presence, like he'd learned to command a room through sheer force of will, rather than physical intimidation. "You look like you're about to throw up," a voice said. Elena turned to find a woman sliding into the chair beside her, mid-20s, dark curls, wearing an emerald dress that probably cost more than Elena's childhood home. "Gianna," the woman continued, stealing Elena's champagne and downing it in one gulp. "Dante's sister. Well, half-sister. Different mothers, same terrifying father. Welcome to the family circus," she grinned. "You must be either very brave or very stupid to marry my brother." "I'm leaning towards stupid," Elena admitted. Gianna laughed, a bright, genuine sound that felt out of place in this room full of dangerous men in expensive suits. "I like you already. Most of the women Dante's dated were." She waved her hand dismissively. "Boring, pretty, but boring. You though, you've got fire. I saw you almost bolt 3 times during the vows." "Only 3? Impressive restraint." Gianna leaned in conspiratorially. "So here's the deal. Dante's my favorite brother. Don't tell Marco or Luca, they're sensitive, but he's also the most stubborn, possessive, infuriating man you'll ever meet. The accident made it worse. He's got this whole, I need to prove I'm still dangerous complex going on." Elena glanced across the room where Dante was talking to an older man in a navy suit. Even seated, he looked lethal. "He seems plenty dangerous." "Oh, he is," Gianna agreed cheerfully. "But he's also weirdly romantic, like he pretends to be this cold, calculating mob boss. But he once drove 4 hours to get me my favorite cannoli when I had the flu. He's a marshmallow wrapped in barbed wire." "That's comforting." "It should be." Gianna's expression softened. "Look, I don't know what arrangement brought you here, and I don't care. But I've never seen Dante look at anyone the way he looks at you. He's been obsessed since that night at the restaurant. Talked about you constantly. The girl who spilled wine, the girl with the smile, the girl who wasn't afraid to laugh at herself." She rolled her eyes. It was honestly nauseating. Elena's chest tightened. "He talked about me. Endlessly. Then the accident happened, and he shut down. Stopped going out, stopped seeing anyone. We thought he'd forgotten." Gianna smiled. "But then your father's debt came across Marco's desk, and Dante practically fought him for the file, said he'd handle it personally. He manipulated the whole thing." "Of course he did. He's a Salvatore." Gianna stood, smoothing her dress. "But here's the thing about my brother. When he loves something, he protects it, fiercely, obsessively, sometimes annoyingly. You're safer with him than anywhere else in this city." She paused. "Just don't break his heart, okay? He pretends to be invincible, but he's more fragile than he looks." Before Elena could respond, Gianna disappeared into the crowd. "Fragile, Dante Salvatore, the man who'd blackmailed her into marriage." Elena didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Dance with me." She jumped. Dante had wheeled up beside her, silent as a cat. "You're in a wheelchair," Elena pointed out. "So you'll have to come down to my level." He extended his hand, eyes glinting with challenge. "Unless you're afraid." There was that word again. Afraid. Elena took his hand. He pulled her into his lap with surprising strength, one arm wrapping around her waist to steady her. The music shifted. Something slow and Italian that Elena didn't recognize. Dante wheeled them onto the dance floor, guiding the chair in smooth circles, while Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "This is insane," she whispered. "This," Dante corrected, lips brushing her ear, "is dancing." They moved together, and Elena became acutely aware of every point of contact. His hand on her waist, her fingers tangled with his, the solid warmth of his chest against her side. He smelled like expensive cologne and something darker, gunpowder maybe, or danger itself. "You're tense," he observed. "I married a stranger today. Tension feels appropriate. Then let me tell you about myself." His thumb traced circles on her hip, casual and possessive. I'm 32. I like my coffee black, my whiskey neat, and my privacy absolute. I haven't walked in 2 years, but I can still shoot, fight, and his voice dropped. Do everything else that matters. Heat flooded Elena's cheeks. I didn't. I run the family's financial operations, he continued smoothly. Money laundering, investments, legitimate businesses. Marco handles enforcement, Luca handles distribution. I make sure we don't go bankrupt or end up in federal prison. He spun the chair, and Elena gripped his shoulder for balance. I'm also extremely possessive, moderately controlling, and completely obsessed with my wife. You don't know me. I know you bite your lip when you're nervous. You apologize too much. You wanted to be a teacher before you dropped out to help your parents with the restaurant. His eyes met hers. You take sugar in your coffee but pretend you like it black because your mother says it's more sophisticated. You hate heels. You read romance novels on your phone when you think no one's watching. And when you laugh, really laugh, you snort a little. Elena's breath caught. How do you? I told you. Obsessed. He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. I've had people watching you for 6 months, Elena, making sure you were safe. Learning everything about you. She should be horrified, furious. Instead, she felt something dangerous flutter in her chest. That's stalking. That's devotion. His hand tightened on her waist. And before you ask, no, I don't regret it. Yes, I'd do it again. And no, I'm not going to apologize for wanting to know everything about the woman I intended to marry. The song ended. Applause rippled through the room. Dante wheeled them off the dance floor through a side door, into a quiet corridor lined with oil paintings and antique furniture. Where are we going? Elena asked. Away from the vultures. He navigated the hallway with practiced ease, past several doors, until they reached a mahogany-paneled library that smelled like leather and old books. He locked the door behind them. Elena's pulse quickened. Dante. Relax, he said, reading her panic with unnerving accuracy. We're just talking. I promised you a choice, remember? And despite what you might think, I keep my promises. He wheeled to the fireplace where flames crackled in the hearth, then gestured to the velvet sofa across from him. Elena sat, tucking her wedding dress around her legs. Silence stretched between them. Tell me about you, Dante said finally. Not the things I already know. Tell me something real. Elena studied him, the strange, dangerous man who'd upended her entire life. Why? Because you're my wife, and I want to know who I married. Fair enough. I'm scared, Elena admitted quietly. Of this, of you, of what my life just became. Good. She blinked. Good? Fear means you're smart. He leaned forward, elbows on the armrests of his wheelchair. The women who weren't afraid of me, they didn't last. They saw the money, the power, the name. They didn't see the danger. His expression softened fractionally. But you see exactly what I am, and you're still here. I didn't have a choice. You had a choice, Dante corrected gently. I gave you one. You chose to stay. Because he'd looked at her like she mattered. Like she was more than just her father's mistake or her mother's disappointment. Like she was his. What happens now? Elena whispered. Dante's smile was slow, dangerous, and absolutely devastating. Now, Tesoro, I take you home. Home turned out to be a penthouse overlooking Boston Harbor. Elena stood in the marble entryway, wedding dress still on, staring at floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city lights reflecting off black water. The space was masculine, all dark leather, chrome fixtures, and abstract art that probably cost more than her parents' restaurant ever made in a year. Your room is down the hall, Dante said, wheeling past her toward what looked like a kitchen that belonged in a design magazine. Second door on the left. Your things have already been moved in. Elena turned slowly. My room. He paused, glancing back with an expression that might have been amusement. Did you think I'd throw you into my bed on our wedding night? I'm possessive, Elena, not a monster. Didn't know what to expect. Expect this. You have your own space, your own privacy. I won't touch you unless you ask me to. His eyes darkened. But make no mistake, you're still mine. You sleep under my roof. You wear my ring. And if anyone so much as looks at you wrong, I'll know about it. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather rather than implied violence. That's comforting, Elena muttered. It should be. He rolled into the kitchen, opening the refrigerator with practiced ease. Are you hungry? The chef left food. You have a chef? I have several. He pulled out a covered plate, but Lucia only comes 3 times a week. The rest of the time you're stuck with my cooking. You cook? I'm Italian and in a wheelchair, Elena. I had to learn useful skills. He set the plate on the counter, then grabbed 2 wine glasses from a cabinet. Besides, sitting around feeling sorry for myself got boring after the first 6 months. There was something in his voice, something sharp and bitter that he tried to hide behind sarcasm. Elena moved closer, watching as he uncovered the plate to reveal pasta, fresh bread, and what looked like homemade tiramisu. Tell me about the accident, she said quietly. Dante's hands stilled. No. Dante. I said no. He poured wine with controlled precision, not looking at her. That's not a conversation we're having tonight, or any night soon. But, Elena. He finally met her eyes, and the raw pain there stole her breath. I will tell you many things. I will answer most of your questions. But that, his jaw tightened, is still too fresh, even after 2 years. She understood trauma, understood walls built to keep the hurt contained. So she let it go. Okay, she said softly. Then tell me something else, something that doesn't hurt. Dante studied her for a long moment, then surprised her with a genuine smile. I'm afraid of birds. Elena blinked. What? Birds, pigeons, specifically. Filthy, unpredictable creatures. He wheeled toward the dining table, gesturing for her to follow. When I was 8, a pigeon flew into my hair during a family picnic. I screamed like I was being murdered. Marco still brings it up at every Christmas dinner. Despite everything, the insanity of this day, the strangeness of this marriage, Elena laughed. Really laughed. And Dante's expression shifted into something warm and hungry and utterly captivating. There it is, he murmured. That smile. Elena's cheeks heated. She sat at the table, accepting the wine he offered. Your turn. Ask me something. What's your biggest fear? The question caught her off guard. She expected something lighter, favorite color, childhood memory, harmless small talk. But Dante didn't do small talk. Being invisible, Elena admitted. Being so unremarkable that I just disappear into the background of everyone else's life. Understanding flickered in his eyes. Your parents. They love me, she said quickly. They just had expectations, and I didn't meet them. What expectations? Perfect grades, perfect marriage, perfect daughter. She took a sip of wine, the bitterness matching her mood. I dropped out of college when the restaurant started failing. Spent 3 years waitressing, cleaning, doing whatever they needed. But it was never enough. I was never enough. Their failure to see your worth doesn't diminish it. The conviction in his voice made her throat tight. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you stayed when I offered you freedom, Dante countered. I know you're sitting here having dinner with a criminal instead of running scared. I know you have courage, even if you don't see it yet. Elena didn't know what to say to that. They ate in comfortable silence. The pasta was incredible, rich, perfectly seasoned, nothing like the reheated leftovers she'd survived on for years. This is amazing, she said around a mouthful of penne. Lucia's specialty. Wait until you try her lasagna. He refilled her wine. Fair warning, she's going to interrogate you tomorrow. She's worked for my family for 30 years and considers herself everyone's surrogate grandmother. Does she know what you do? Everyone knows what we do, Elena. We don't exactly hide it. His tone was matter of fact. But if you're asking whether she'll judge you for marrying into the family, no, she'll probably just cry happy tears and start planning Sunday dinners. The casual domesticity of it all felt surreal. Mod boss, wheelchair, forced marriage. And they were discussing Sunday dinners like normal people. I don't know how to do this, Elena confessed. Do what? Be your wife. Live in this world. Navigate, she gestured vaguely. All of this. Dante set down his fork, expression serious. Then we'll figure it out together. You make it sound simple. It is simple. He wheeled closer, close enough that she could see flecks of gold in his green eyes. You're mine. I'm yours. Everything else is just details. Her heart stuttered. Dante. The shrill ring of a phone cut her off. Dante's expression shifted from warm to cold in an instant. He pulled a cell from his jacket, glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened. I need to take this. He rolled toward the windows, answering in rapid Italian that sounded more like controlled fury than conversation. Elena couldn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Something was wrong. Dante ended the call, staring out at the city lights with an expression that made her stomach drop. What is it? She asked. Your father. Ice flooded her veins. What about him? He went to one of Carmen Russo's clubs tonight, got drunk, started talking. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless, which somehow made it worse. Apparently he's been telling people that I bought you, that his daughter was sold to a cripple for debt forgiveness. Elena's face burned with shame and fury. Dante, I'm so sorry. Don't. He held up a hand. This isn't your fault, but we have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where every ambitious bastard in the North End now thinks my wife was a business transaction, that you're a weakness, a trophy. He turned to face her, eyes blazing. And in my world, weakness gets exploited. Fear clawed at her chest. What does that mean? It means, his phone rang again. Different tone, more urgent. Dante answered, listened for 10 seconds, then unleashed a string of Italian curses that needed no translation. Get everyone to the estate, now. Yes, all of them. I don't care. He stopped, gaze snapping to Elena. Lock it down. No one in or out, until I say otherwise. He ended the call. Silence. Pack a bag, Dante said quietly. We're leaving. What? Why? Because someone just tried to break into your parents' house. Elena's world tilted. What? They didn't get in. Marco had security watching the property. But the message is clear. Dante's expression was carved granite. Your father made you a target, and now everyone knows exactly how to get to me. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You need to trust me. He rolled closer, gripping her hand with surprising gentleness. I told you I'd protect you, Elena. But I can't do that if you're exposed. We're going to the estate. Family lockdown. Until we figure out who's making a move. This is insane. This is my world. His thumb stroked her knuckles, the gesture at odds with the steel in his voice. And you're part of it now, which means you're valuable, which means you're a liability, which means his grip tightened. I'm not letting you out of my sight until the threat is neutralized. Elena's pulse hammered. For how long? As long as it takes. Dante. No arguments. He released her hand, already moving toward the hallway. Pack comfortable clothes. We might be there for days, possibly weeks. Weeks. Welcome to the family business, Tesoro. He glanced back, and despite the danger, despite the chaos, his smile was darkly amused. Turns out, marrying me was the easy part. 20 minutes later, Elena sat in the back of an armored SUV, designer luggage at her feet, watching Dante give orders to a team of men who looked like they ate bullets for breakfast. Marco appeared at the passenger window, expression grim. Perimeter secure. Russo's people are sniffing around, but they haven't made a direct move yet. They will, Dante said flatly. Carmine's been looking for an opening since the port deal fell through. This is it. Then we hit him first. No. Dante's voice was ice. We don't start a war over rumors. We make them irrelevant. Marco's gaze slid to Elena. And how do you plan to do that? Dante's smile was slow, dangerous, and absolutely devastating. By making sure everyone knows exactly what my wife means to me. He reached back, fingers tangling with Elena's, pulling her hand forward so Marco could see the way Dante's thumb traced her wedding ring. Possessive, protective, completely deliberate. She's not a transaction, Dante continued softly. She's not a weakness, She's mine, and anyone who touches what's mine doesn't live long enough to regret it. The words should have terrified her. Instead, Elena felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Something that felt dangerously close to trust. The SUV pulled away from the curb, heading toward the estate, toward lockdown, toward a world Elena barely understood. But as Dante's hand tightened around hers, she realized something. She wasn't running. She was staying. And God help her, she was starting to understand why. The Salvatore estate at night looked like something out of a gothic thriller. All iron gates, security cameras, and men with guns who nodded respectfully as Dante's SUV passed through. Elena pressed her face to the window, watching the massive house grow closer. Lights blazed from every window. More SUVs lined the circular driveway. This wasn't just family lockdown. This was war prep. "How many people live here?" she asked. "Officially, just Marco and our father when he's not in Italy." Dante helped her out of the vehicle with surprising ease, his upper body strength evident as he transferred to his wheelchair. Unofficially, right now about 30 family members, soldiers, and support staff. 30 people, give or take. He wheeled toward the entrance where Gianna stood waiting, now in jeans and a Harvard sweatshirt, looking far less glamorous than at the wedding. "We take family security seriously." "You think?" Gianna hugged Elena like they'd been friends for years. "Welcome to lockdown. It's basically summer camp with guns and better food." She shot Dante a look. "Please tell me you're putting her in the East Wing. If she has to listen to Luca's snoring, she'll annul this marriage by morning." "She's staying with me," Dante said flatly. Both women stared at him. "You said I'd have my own room," Elena protested. "That was before someone tried to break into your parents' house." His expression brooked no argument. "Until we identify the threat, you stay where I can protect you. My suite has a sitting room. You'll have privacy. But you're not sleeping 3 floors away where I can't reach you in seconds." Gianna whistled low. "Overprotective much." "Practical," Dante corrected. He started toward the entrance, then paused. "Elena, coming." It wasn't really a question. Elena grabbed her bag and followed, very aware of Gianna's amused expression as they passed. The interior of the estate was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors, priceless artwork, a grand staircase that belonged in a museum. But Dante bypassed all of it, heading toward an elevator hidden behind a mahogany panel. "Accessibility modification," he explained, noticing her surprise. "Had it installed after the accident. My father hated it, said it ruined the aesthetic. I told him he could carry me up 3 flights of stairs himself if he cared that much." Elena smiled despite herself. "Let me guess, he installed the elevator." Within a week, the elevator doors opened into a private hallway. My father values many things, his pride most of all. Admitting his son needs accommodation, that hurt worse than the actual paralysis. There was bitterness there, buried under sarcasm. Dante's suite was masculine but surprisingly warm. Dark wood furniture, a fireplace, walls lined with books. Through an open doorway, Elena could see a bedroom with a massive 4-poster bed. Her stomach flipped. "Sitting room is through here," Dante said, wheeling past the bedroom to another door. "It has a sofa that converts to a bed, bathroom, closet, everything you need." The sitting room was smaller but beautifully appointed. Soft lighting, comfortable furniture, windows overlooking the estate gardens. "It's lovely," Elena said honestly. "It's temporary." Dante positioned himself in the doorway, blocking her exit, not threateningly, just present. "Elena, look at me." She turned. His expression was serious. "I meant what I said. I won't touch you unless you ask, but we're going to be in close quarters for the foreseeable future. If that makes you uncomfortable." "It doesn't," she interrupted, surprising herself. "I mean, it's strange. All of this is strange, but," she searched for the right words, "I don't feel unsafe with you." Something shifted in his eyes. Warmth, relief, hunger. "Good," he said quietly. "Because keeping you safe is the only thing that matters right now." A sharp knock interrupted the moment. "Yeah," Dante called. Marco entered without waiting for permission, followed by Luca. the middle Salvatore brother, who Elena had barely spoken to at the wedding. Where Marco was all sharp edges and intensity, Luca had an easier smile and lighter energy. "We've got a problem," Marco announced. "Another one?" Dante's tone was dry. "Russo's people are spreading the story. Social media, street level, everywhere. Dante Salvatore bought himself a virgin bride to prove he's still a man despite the wheelchair." Marco's jaw tightened. "It's getting traction." Elena's face burned with humiliation. "Let them talk," Dante said calmly. "Let them." Marco stared at his brother like he'd grown a second head. "This undermines everything. Makes you look weak. Makes her look like—" "Careful," Dante interrupted, voice dropping to something dangerous. "Very careful how you finish that sentence." Marco held up his hands. "I'm not saying I believe it. I'm saying this is how it's being perceived. And perception is everything in our world." "Then we change the perception." Dante's gaze slid to Elena, something calculating in his expression. "We make it clear that Elena isn't a transaction. She's my wife, my choice, my—" He paused, smile edging toward possessive obsession. Luca laughed. "How exactly do you plan to convince the entire north end of that?" "Simple." Dante wheeled closer to Elena, reaching for her hand. She let him take it, pulse quickening, as his thumb stroked her palm. "We give them a better story." "What kind of story?" Elena asked warily. "The truth." His eyes locked with hers. "That I've been in love with you since the night you spilled wine on my jacket. That the accident didn't change how I felt. That I fought for the chance to marry you because I couldn't imagine my life without you in it." Elena's breath caught. "It's not entirely a lie," he continued softly, still holding her gaze. "The obsession part is completely accurate." Marco made an impatient noise. "And you think people will believe a love story from you?" "They will if we sell it right." Dante finally looked away from Elena, releasing her hand with visible reluctance. "Elena and I make public appearances. Dinners, charity events, family gatherings. We show them a couple who's clearly infatuated. We leak stories about the romantic's courtship. We make Russo's narrative look like jealous gossip." "That's actually not a terrible plan," Luca admitted. "The media loves a good romance. Especially one with a redemption arc. Injured mob boss finds love again. That's Hollywood gold." "It's manipulation," Elena said quietly. 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. "Yes," Dante agreed. "It is. Welcome to my world, Tesoro. Everything is manipulation. The question is whether you're willing to play along." She should say no, should refuse to participate in this elaborate deception. But looking at Dante at the way he watched her with a mixture of hope and challenge, Elena realized something. She wanted to play along, not because she was forced to, not because she was afraid, but because some part of her wanted to see where this strange, dangerous attraction might lead. "Fine," she said. "I'll do it." Dante's smile was slow and devastating. "Excellent. We'll start tomorrow. Lunch at Mama Vittoria's, very public, very visible. The whole family will be there." "The whole family?" Elena's stomach dropped. "Including your father?" "Especially my father." Dante's expression hardened. "He needs to meet his new daughter-in-law, and he needs to understand that you're under my protection, permanently." Marco and Luca exchanged looks. "You sure about this?" Marco asked. "The old man's not exactly thrilled about the marriage. He thinks you acted impulsively." "I did act impulsively," Dante said calmly. 2 years ago when I decided Elena was mine. Everything since then has been strategy." "Strategy," Marco repeated, shaking his head. "Right, because falling in love with a waitress and blackmailing her father was definitely strategic. It got her here, didn't it? It got you into a PR nightmare. Which we're now fixing." Dante wheeled toward the door, clearly dismissing them. "Set up the lunch. Invite the cousins, the aunts, everyone. We're making a statement." Luca paused at the doorway. What statement would that be? Dante glanced back at Elena, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. That Elena Salvatore's family, and anyone who threatens family, answers to all of us. The brothers left. Silence filled the room. Elena sank onto the sofa, suddenly exhausted. This is insane. You've said that before. It bears repeating. She looked up at him. Dante, what if this doesn't work? What if people don't believe we're whatever we're supposed to be? Then we make them believe. He wheeled closer, stopping just in front of her. Elena, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about perception or family politics. Russo is dangerous. If he thinks you're a weakness he can exploit, he will try. The only way to protect you is to make you untouchable. By pretending we're in love. By showing we're in love. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her lower lip with devastating gentleness. And who says we'd be pretending? Heat flooded through her. Dante. I told you I was obsessed, he murmured, leaning closer. I meant it, every word. You think I orchestrated this entire marriage just for convenience, for debt collection? His laugh was dark. I could have cleared your father's debt with a phone call. I didn't need to marry you. Then why did you? Because I wanted you. His voice dropped to something raw and honest. Because I've wanted you since that night. Because when I was lying in a hospital bed, unable to walk, unable to do anything except think, you were what I thought about. Your smile, your laugh, the way you apologized 17 times for something that didn't matter. Elena's heart thundered. That's not love. That's fixation. Maybe, his thumb traced her jawline, but it's mine, and I'm not apologizing for it. They were too close, his breath warm against her skin, his eyes dark with want. Elena should pull away, should establish boundaries. Instead, she leaned forward, just an inch, just enough, and whispered, what if I'm starting to feel it too? Dante's control shattered. He pulled her down into his lap with surprising strength, one hand tangling in her hair, the other gripping her waist. His mouth hovered over hers, waiting. Tell me to stop, he breathed. No. He kissed her, and Elena's world caught fire. It wasn't gentle, wasn't sweet or tender, or any of the things she'd imagined a first kiss might be. It was hungry, possessive, absolutely consuming, like Dante was trying to claim every piece of her through this single point of contact. And God help her, she kissed him back. Her hands found his shoulders, his neck, threading through his dark hair. He tasted like wine and something darker, more dangerous. His grip on her waist tightened, pulling her closer, and she could feel the hard muscle of his chest, the controlled strength in his arms. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante's smile was pure masculine satisfaction. Still think this is just fixation, he murmured against her lips. Elena couldn't think at all. We should slow down, she managed. Probably. But he didn't release her. Or we could acknowledge that this, he gestured between them, is real, complicated and insane, and definitely real. Dante. Tomorrow, he interrupted gently. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Right now you need sleep, and I need to make sure every entrance to this estate is secure. He helped her stand, steadying her when her legs wobbled. Good night, Elena, he said softly. She made it to the doorway of the sitting room before turning back. Dante? Yeah? I'm glad I stayed. His smile could have lit the entire city. So am I, tesoro, so am I.